Before we get to today's video, we'd like to welcome new subscribers to our channel. We got Michael Hippler, Houndsman1, Tony Franz, and Tony Fantini. Welcome to our channel. We hope you're going to enjoy it. Good morning, folks. Welcome back to Mark Kelly Farm. Neighbor's cows came down to visit. Down here eating all this good fresh Nebraska grass and a lot of the Nebraska wacky weed in here. Looks like they're chewing on it a little bit. Hopefully they're not out there getting all loopy. Beautiful day out here. Thought we'd do another little garden tour. Show you what's going on out in the garden. The grass is going crazy out here. I've been bush hogging a little bit, but of course there's areas on the hills that you can't really do. But we got our burn pile down there that will burn here in a couple months when it dries out a little bit better. Got to get up here and mow my new road up here. So we had some friends in over the weekend from California. They brought us some California treats. They have a Rainier cherry tree out in their yard, and they picked us a big old bag of cherries before they came out. That was a real treat. They are already gone. They are headed on to Nebraska to see some, or not Nebraska, headed on to Wisconsin to go to a family wedding up there. And then they're going to be back around here in a couple weeks. So we'll have the pleasure of hosting them again. So I'll show you the greenhouse real quick. We about got rid of the rest of our tomatoes. We got a few left in here. Some of them are destined for the compost heap. We had started some early girls a little bit later. Then we got our sweet potato slips in here still. But we're about done in the greenhouse for this year. I'm going to plant a tomato in there. Or kale. We harvested our other little bed of kale, but this one needs to be harvested here pretty quick. We're going to make some more soup. And Kelly likes making kale chips out of them. But you can see our little tub here with our carrots and our parsnips in it starting to do really good. Remember, I used the seed tape in this thing, and not a real big fan of the seed tape. And I'll probably never use seed tape again, because you just don't get the germination. It doesn't seem to germinate as well as just the regular seeds. And I'll show you out here in the garden, actually. I have a real good comparison. I planted a row of carrots, and there was two rows on either side of one row on either side of the drip tape. One was planted with seed tape, and one was planted with seed. And I will show you the difference, even though I haven't thinned them out yet. That's this morning's little task. But you can see my carrot row here. This side of the row over here on the left hand side of the seed tape was planted with seed. And you can see the germination rate. There's weeds in between that we'll be pulling out here this morning. And then look at the right hand side. Very few carrots on this right hand side. So not real impressed with the seed tape. And you can see I got more weeds on this side of the garden than I do this side. Well, this side has a lot of the root vegetables, and you got to wait till they come up and see where they're at before you go hoeing weeds in there. Like over here on the rutabagas, you can see after they came up, we weeded that in there. And now it looks pretty good. There's just a few little weeds in there we got to take care of when we get to that row. I come out and do a row every day, and then I'll take a couple days off And then I'll start back on the other side again and do about a row a day. But you can see the potatoes here are doing really well. These are the first planting of Yukon Golds. The red potatoes are not up yet, but once those get up, we'll be able to do a better job of hoeing in here in this row. Our turnips came up really well right here in this row. And this row's our chard. I planted way too much chard. This whole row is chard, and that's going to be more than we can deal with. So I'm probably going to go about halfway, and I think I want to plant some more garlic. So I'll take out this back half of this row of chard, maybe after the first cutting or something. We'll do that. But my beets are finally just starting to show, so now I can get in here after I hoe the outside to the inside of that row. I can get in there and thin those out to where you know where the beets are. The second stand of potatoes is just now starting to come up. I have radishes down here on the end of the row that are almost ready to harvest. They are bulbed up quite nicely. So we're going to come in here probably this week sometime and harvest those radishes. But the peppers down here are doing real good. We got some zucchini squash and some yellow squash on that other end here. The beans are doing fantastic. I've never had such a good stand of beans. We're going to hoe that row tomorrow. Today is this row here. But everything's looking real good. The onions are doing good. Some of the yellow onions kind of hit and miss, but the red onions did real good. This latter part of the row down here was towards the end of the bunch, so we were kind of using what was left out of the bunch, and some of them had dried up a little bit, so kind of hit and miss down here on this end of the row. But these are good Blue Lake pole beans here. We got snap peas down there in the middle that they're going to need a trellis here real soon. And then we got cucumbers down on that other end down there that we're going to trellis up. Our indeterminate tomatoes are starting to get to the tops of those cages, so we're going to have to get those cattle panels on there pretty soon. And then over here we got melons and acorn squash. And then the corn down there come up really well. And then we're going to plant this other section here in about 2 weeks. I'm going to finish these 2 rows out, four rows of corn total. And then that way we'll have a progression of our corn. But the garden's looking real good. Real pleased with how things are going. And if you watched, I think it was the last video, you saw that we got our bees over there. We've been feeding our bees, making sure they got plenty of syrup right now. We're kind of in between wildflowers. We got a lot of dandelions they can hit, and there's several things around the farm here that are blooming that they can get nectar from. But we're kind of in between wild blooms out here. So we've been giving them some feed. The asparagus we're letting go to seed now, so we can get some energy down into those roots. It's really nice and thick. So that'll be real good for next year. That'll come back real nice. And we're going to do a better job of weeding out here next year. I did not know this asparagus was here, so I didn't worry about it because I was just going to keep this mowed out here. But after we found out the asparagus was here, the previous owner said he just comes out in the spring and he puts some pre-emergent over the top of the asparagus bed, which keeps the weeds from germinating. But we'll make sure we do that this next year when it comes up. But all this stuff out here, all the weeds out here, I get with my wheel hoe. It goes real fast. And then once we figure out where everything is here, these rows won't have near as many weeds in them. once we figure out where the lines are. I kind of know where they're at, but these are parsnips, and I can see some coming up, but I'm going to wait till they get a little bit taller before I get real aggressive with the weeding in this row. But you can see, like I said, with the beets, we can see those beets now, so I can get in there and get those thinned out and get those weeds out of that row. But she's looking real good. We got the grapes over there next to the shop. We'll take you over and show those. Got Freddy the frog down here. He visits out here in the garden, pretty much lives out here. I'm sure he eats a lot of bugs. Little shot of the corn while we're over here on this end. Looking real good. Peaches and cream. Can't wait to get some good ears of corn this summer. And we got some crimson sweet watermelon planted down there on that end. That's my favorite variety. So sweet. If you haven't tried that variety, you really need to. Alright, you can see the grapes are doing real well after a good pruning this year. We got clusters coming all over these grapes. Doing real well. This is a Concord grape on this end. And then this grape here in the middle is a red Swenson. But you can see the clusters all over this. We're going to get some good grapes this year. And this one down here, I originally thought had not made it. It's a Catalba Grape, but it has re-sprouted from the rootstock down there. So this old cane coming up, I kind of turned that into a cordon prune vine, but that upper part of the vine there did not make it. It's dead. So we're going to take some of these new canes. I got a really long one here, and we're going to get this going again. I need to look up a Catalba grape and see whether it's cane pruned or spur pruned. Alright, we got our carrots all thinned out and weeded. You can see that the row's a lot cleaner now. All we did was pull the weeds out and thin the carrots out to where they're a couple inches apart. Row looks a lot nicer. I didn't do this right side because those carrots aren't quite as mature, and I don't want to go disrupting the dirt too much, and may have issues with that. So I'm going to let that go a little bit till those carrots are a little bit taller. That took me maybe 20 minutes. Not that big a deal. And you just got to have the satisfaction when you're done of how nice it looks. Anybody that likes gardening is going to have that feeling when they get done with something, how nice the garden looks. We've also already hoed today's row, which was the determinate tomatoes here. And then tomorrow we'll do this row here with the beans and the rutabagas, and so on and so on. Now, say these small crops like this that need a little bit of hand weeding and thinning aren't your thing. Or if you've got a little disability going on or something like that, you'll either want to go with a raised bed or just avoid the small like root crop seeds and stuff altogether. Stick with like zucchini or something like that, where you definitely know where the plant is and you just hoe a little bit around it. It's much easier. So just stick with that and buy your carrots at the store. But it's not that big a deal, folks. I come out, I do 10 minutes a day on a row. Today was different because I thin those out, so every now and then you'll have a little task that you got to do. I did these rutabagas the other day, but you'll see once you get those thinned out and they're not competing, they will just explode like those turnips over there. After I thinned those out and weeded them, they just exploded because they don't have competition. But you'll hear people have foolproof ways to keep the weeds out of your garden. Super simple. They're fooling themselves, and they haven't spent a lot of time in a garden, because Mother Nature is always going to win the battle. Mother Nature will always overcome. When we're dead and gone, Mother Nature is the top of the food chain and takes us as well. So anybody that thinks that humans can control the climate or affect the climate or stop weeds from growing in their garden, I don't know what you call them. I don't want to be, mean or anything, but you just can't beat Mother Nature. You can hold her back for a little bit, but you ain't going to beat her. Now, there's such a thing called a seed bank, is what we're trying to work down here. Now, seed bank, what we mean by that is there's seeds in your garden, down in the soil, been there ever since that weed deposited them. And what you're trying to do is reduce your seed bank. So if you've got a fresh plot of ground that you're going to turn into a garden, I highly recommend get out there in the spring, preferably in the fall, till that garden up, work it up real good. And in the spring, when things start sprouting, let a good sprout come on and till it again. Water the heck out of it. Use a sprinkler. Water, water, water. Get everything out there to germinate that you can. And before it goes to seed, you till it again. And you keep that process all year. You don't have a garden that year. All you're doing is sprouting those weeds in your seed bank. And sprout, sprout, sprout. So every time you till it up, water it again, get that to sprout again like a whole new garden of weeds. And eventually you'll work that seed bank down. It's not going to be done in 1 year, but it's a good start for your first year. If you can let that ground stay bare and keep tilling them weeds in. Do not let them go to seed. There's an old saying, 1 year of weeds, 7 years of seeds. Those seeds will stay in your ground for quite a while and they'll keep sprouting. And you'll notice where a big weed has been allowed to go to seed, you'll have a lot of those weeds in that spot. So yeah, your seed bank is what you're trying to decrease, and that's what you're working on. There is only one method, absolutely one method that is dummy proof, and it's not hard, and it works every single time. That's this thing right here. That's a hoe. You get out there 5 minutes a day. Well, 10 minutes. I go 5 minutes one way, 5 minutes back, and I do a row a day. That's what it takes. It's not hard. Get you a hoe that's got a real light handle on it. This one's got a real light handle, a nice small head on it. You can use it straight on like that, or you can use a pointed corner like that and go edgewise. And this is not heavy, super light. You want to make sure it's light. The lighter it is, the less work it is. A little joke I tell Kelly all the time. She says, "Where you been, babes? What you been doing?" I said, "Oh, I've been out hoeing around." That's what I call it when I'm out hoeing my row. So 10 minutes a day is not much. And if you can't commit to that, again, maybe gardening isn't your thing. If you can't spare 10 minutes. A lot of people use the excuse when their stuff isn't getting done and stuff's not squared away, "Oh, I didn't have the time." Well, we all know in our hearts that that's not necessarily the truth. You've had 10, 15, 20 minutes, an hour, some point in your day where you were not being productive. And I have those every day. So I can spare 10 minutes. If you ask me, folks, if you got a vegetable garden or even a flower garden, you have two choices, and only two. You either weed or you have weeds. And that's the simple of it right there. Gardening takes a little work. And if you're not willing to put in the work, do less of a garden, smaller garden, something like that. Decrease your workload if you don't like the workload. Do what you can do and do it well. Now this is another tool that I use in the garden to kind of decrease my workload. It's called a wheel hoe. This wheel hoe the brand is Planet Junior. It's a really old wheel hoe. I got this from my uncle. It went through a forest fire out in California. He's got a place up in the mountains. And this frame right here was the only thing I found. There was not a wheel on it, These handles were all burnt up. All we had was the frame right here with some weed sweeps bolted to it that were all burnt up and nasty. So my uncle informed me my grandfather on my dad's side bought this back in 1931 to help out in the garden. And I was fortunate enough to find that in an old rusty pile of metal that again had went through the forest fire. I was out there picking through it and found it and knew what it was. And he said, take it. And he called me a week or so later. He'd found all the tools for it. So over here I got a bunch of different tools for it. I got 2 plows. I got a big harrow rake over there. I got some weed sweeps that were on it. But we took that and we soaked it in vinegar. Got all the rust off of it. Painted it up. Fortunately, even though Planet Junior is no longer a company, or Planet is no longer a company, Haas Tools, if you've heard of them, has taken over. I don't know if they bought the company out or what they did, but they're still manufacturing this stuff. Haas Tools has a frame that is identical to this. It doesn't say Planet Junior on it anymore, but they're still making it identical. You can buy the wheels. You can buy the wooden handles. However, the original wooden handles were these pistol grip style handles. They did not have those available. They had the bent type, steam bent type handles. But I wanted to go as original as I could, so I went and bought some oak. And I actually did some research on the internet and figured out what these look like and was able to determine the scale of these. And I made these pistol grip handles for this thing. But I got the little cultivator teeth on it right now. I want to buy one more, so I have 5 on there. But all kinds of different tool range options in here. And I even went out and bought some newer square head bolts so they would match. And try to keep it as original as I can. But that's another tool I use in the garden quite extensively. So that's our garden tour for this week. I think it's installment number 3. And things are really starting to grow now. So we'll probably do one weekly if we haven't been doing them weekly. So you'll see quite a few changes and pretty quick. And once we start canning everything, we'll show you how to do that. But yeah, that's the tour. So we hope you enjoyed our little look at our garden. We got some other projects we're going to go jump on now. We still have that knife we're working on for our giveaway. In fact, we're building 2 knives right now. Had a feller named Kelly O'Neill won the giveaway. So if you're listening, Kelly, it's still in the works. Have a little patience. But we're making it, and we'll get it out to you ASAP. Shouldn't be too much longer. So till next time, come on back and see us here at Mark Kelly Farm. Stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come on back.